about 2.5 years ago, where I met this indie developer in Berlin. And he built this video game, if we could play it, there you go. And in this video game, there was this train. It can be a Deutschbahn train, definitely not a Swiss one. And the train inspector comes in. Now, the difference on this video game is that every single of those players, of those characters, you see Cleopatra, you see Socrates, you see Da Vinci, every one of them is an AI agent. This was 2.5 years ago. Now, each of those agents was run by a different model, like an independent, autonomous thing. One was a Llama 3, another one was a GPT 3.5, there was another model out there, a Mistral. So every one of them was independent, and the ticket inspector's job was to identify whom in the train was a human. So you may have heard about the Turing test. Is this kind of test that we do to evaluate whether an AI is smart enough so that we cannot tell whether it's a human or not? Well, that's a reverse Turing test. And this train inspector had to figure out whether we were real AI, or instead of that, we were sneaking in the AI Deutschbahn train and trying to get in. And every time was a different game. They were asked questions, the inspector would ask questions to Cleopatra, to Da Vinci, and they would answer in the way the LLM would answer, and then you as a human would use your voice and play with that. Then I started thinking, well, that's interesting. I could make a business out of that, or I can maybe think about some potential usage that we could play. And then we developed an application that was with the Meta Quest, with the Oculus apps, and we created a few agents, some avatars, that with the same principle, they would own and have specific knowledge about your company. This was in the financial industry, so we created a credit analyst, a news analyst, a portfolio manager, an ESG manager, and then I would go on stage, sit down right next to you, and ask them, hey, what do you think about NVIDIA now? Should I stock up more on them? Which blue chips in Europe should I be creating my portfolio on? And then I would sit down and they would start debating and arguing with each other. And that was beautiful. So if that was a game and something that you can use today, to use AI agents, and this was already 1.5 years ago, what else could you do with it? Now imagine you go to your board of directors meeting, that you're sitting with your executive team, and you have this army of Jiminy crickets, so I like to call them, and little things whispering in your ear that can read faster than you, analyze things faster than you, review content faster than you, and then help you with all those decisions. If they can understand what happens with your supply chain, what happens with your internal data at the company, what are your competitors doing right now? And this is how the economy of AI agents really started. So we started thinking about that, but we need to start somewhere. And I'm here to tell you about where to start and how to put AI agents in place. My name is Sergio. I am the Chief Technology Officer on Cloudera, and my job is to create those awesome things. So I have the best job in the world. Now, everything that I say today is going to be completely outdated tomorrow. And that's what makes this industry incredibly fun to be in. And probably one of the best times in our life to be in. But there's one thing that is common. And a lot of the panelists before and the previous presenters have been talking about that. Yeah, sure, you can put a bunch of people in the basement writing AI tools and LLMs and agents and create nice experiments that create a fantastic wow factor. But how do you put that in production in a way that's safe to use for a large financial institution, for an insurance company, for an oil and gas company, and so on? And that's the challenge, right? We all went from explosion, experimentation. Most of us put our teams, our innovation teams to work on this, and everyone loved it. Then the CEO asked the question, how do we move this forward? How do we put that into production? Right? What do we need? What do we need in order to build agents? So if you want to think, what is really an agent? I'm sure I would have a different answer for each of you in the audience. So I'd like to at least set a common ground and standards. First of all, an agent reasons. It's not just something that gives you an answer out of some content, whether it's retrieval augmented generation or something. It can take a complex question and reason around it. What is similar to humans, or to certain humans, that's to be seen. It can store information, it can have memory, and go against that memory to be able to reflect on those experiences as well. At the same time, it can access tools. And this is one of the most important elements. In the same way that we humans access tools, when someone asks you, hey, what was the latest about this customer that we met a few weeks ago? What do? You go to your SAP, or to your Salesforce, or to your HubSpot, right? You go to your CRM. And you have permission to access these tools because your company gave those to you. So your agents will need these kind of skills as well. And they need to be able to plan. You can ask, hey, give me a 7-day itinerary trip for my family vacation in Mexico, or you can give it a much more complex task. But how would you rebalance this portfolio based on my risk appetite and my regulations within my financial institution? One question is really simple, just speaking out content that's stored in the memory. Another one requires doing a few rounds of thinking and reasoning and rethinking, and probably asking you back and forth questions on how you go about that. So if we think about agents as things that help us, right? This Jiminy Cricket, a framework that I really like to analyze which use cases work the best actually comes from robotics. And it's great that we have a little one outside because it can help us understand the use cases. Robots, and therefore AI agents, which are nothing but robots with our arms and legs, can be used either to share the work by extending our work or relieving the work that we do, and at the same time, depending on the use case, like trading the task. They can serve as a backup. When we fail on our driving, they can take over. When we fail at doing something in our translation, for example, they can come and say, hey, you're missing this. Really good for accounting cases. Or when we go to the limit to fully replace our use cases. There's a really good debate this week between a few researchers, including Elias Stever and a few others, and the conclusion was, well, agents seem to be really good at tasks that can be verified. So if you have tasks in your daily job that you can fully delegate but can be verified, those are going to be the ones that are going to be fully replaced in any of those frameworks. If you cannot verify a task easily, then that's typically something that will remain in the realm of humans. All right, that's nice, but how do we go about this? First of all, we're not alone. Right? There's a lot of people that are saying agents are here to stay. If you think from the software development perspective, for example, companies are seeing tenfold performance increases on the things that we do. And at Gago, we released a survey just a few weeks ago. You can see it on our website. What are people thinking about agents? And more than half of respondents are putting their AI budget into agents. It's not anymore about putting a chatbot in place so that your employees can use it, like GitHub, Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT. You need to build these systems in order to have competitive advantage. You may have heard an MIT report from, I think 4 or 5 weeks ago that say 95% of the industries are not realizing positive ROI from Gen AI use cases. Well, just 1 week later, another one from Stanford came in, and it said, well, actually 74% of them do see double ROI on that stuff. And we not only asked 50 people, like the MIT did, with a really complex question, we actually asked 500 people. So the reality is that most companies everywhere, even the heavily regulated ones with a lot of compliance, are well invested into this. So how do we go about this? First of all, the challenges, right? Platforms are insufficient. We're not ready from a single platform perspective, especially because we come from the experimentation side. The ecosystem is completely fragmented. If you have been following the track, whether you work with Anthropic, with OpenAI, with Azure, with AWS, it's completely fragmented. So it's really difficult to bring all that together and bring it home. At the same time, how easy is to hire an AI engineer? Here in Switzerland, probably it's pretty easy, right? It's a pretty interesting profile, because it's not an engineer, it's not a data scientist, but it's both things at the same time. And finally, unclear strategic direction. In fact, if you look at those reports, the use cases that failed were the ones that were created from a technology first perspective instead of from a value generation perspective first. So what is what you want to do within your company? What is the value that you want to create? Do you want to provide better customer support? Do you want your software engineers to be 5 times faster or having more throughput? Do you want to have less defects on your factory line? Identify those use cases and then create an agent for those types of things. And something happened when Gen AI came in. Those of us who have been in machine learning and data for, 15 years, we created a bunch of great tools in order to have data governance, understand our data state, have catalogs, permissioning systems, who can access what and for what. I'm sure most of you have that on your data visualizations dashboards, on your business intelligence dashboards, right? There are dashboards that some of you can watch, can see, and some others cannot. And then Gen AI came in and forgot about absolutely everything. We forgot about everything. And those companies who didn't have a proper data governance in place, whether it's data quality infrastructure and so on, have to do their homework from scratch. This is a way of looking about data. And I'm trying to take this to first principles. How do you manage your data state and your processes? This is the most common framework on data engineering that you can find out there, and that's essentially called it as SafeData, right? You take data that you generate, whether it's your IoT machines and devices, on cars that your customers have, on your stores, retail shops that generate data on sales. You ingest the data, transform and serve it, traditionally for analytical purposes, business intelligence, or machine learning. How much am I going to sell tomorrow, based on what I've been selling in the festive season here? So the same thing we have to do with agents. We have to think in terms of that pipeline and bring the agents into my pipeline, instead of creating that inside a lab in isolation. Because the day you want to bring that chatbot with that data and RAG and so on into a production environment, it's never going to work. Your cybersecurity teams are not going to allow it, your legal teams are not going to allow it, and so on. So how does this look like? Essentially, you need to have data access and controls, and treat AI agents like humans. You probably have a company card that allows access to your building. You have IT teams that have certain governance on what data you can access. Well, treat your AI agents in the same way. They should be able to access the same data that the human using them will be able to access. You need to be able to change the LLMs. Right? It was just a few days ago when GPT 5.1 came out. And at some point it will be GPT 6 and GPT 7. So you need to be able to continuously upgrade your models and have a platform that orchestrates all that properly. And the enterprise integration. You may have Confluence or Jira for your data. You may have SAP or Salesforce for your customer information. You may be using Zendesk for your customer support. In the same way that, again, you as a human access these components, your agents need to be able to access and have lineage on who accesses that data. And that comes from monitoring and feedback. So essentially, treat the agents as humans. I'm going to go very quickly. Essentially, it's about having your knowledge graph, and for that, you can bring data engineering platforms like the ones that your data teams probably are well aware of. Bring your GPUs on private AI, and I know private AI and sovereign cloud is a big topic here in Switzerland. How can you trust a company that is overseas and that can change the models overnight? Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a bank. How many banks or insurance companies or financial institutions we have here? Yeah, that kind of makes sense in Switzerland, right? Would you replace all your credit analysts for a third-party company on a different country that is not charging you per day, or it's charging you per word that they give you? They can change their service overnight. In fact, they can cancel it or change the price. And you don't have any say on the quality of the output. They don't necessarily know your risk profile of your financial institution. How do you work? I'm sure you're all going to say, yes, of course, why not? I think you see how you think otherwise. So that is what we're doing when we go and use external third-party services. That, don't get me wrong, are fantastic for experimentation, but you need to have full control of your pipelines and deployments. Which LLM are you using? How do you deploy them? And how do you orchestrate the data that goes in and the data that goes out. So essentially, thinking about agents as a catalog, as a directory. You know this place that you go and say, hey, who is this person? John in sales. Let me go and find that email. And you go to your directory, your Active Directory or your stuff. The same thing has to happen with agents. You have a collection of artificial humans that can be helping you as that army that I showed you at the beginning. And at the same time, all these agents have a collection of tools that they can use. And those companies that don't have an army of Gemini crickets, a collection of artificial systems helping us, are going to suffer from a competitive perspective. And you cannot just experiment with them. You need to bring them together in a safe environment where they have access to all your data in all the environments that you have. Thank you very much. Hope your journey with agents goes safely.